Hi everyone! Welcome again to my channel, Math is Fun channel. This channel is an educational channel to help you understand your lessons in mathematics, and also this is intended to those who are doing their online classes out there and also those who are answering their modules. This video discussion is a very important to help you understand your concept in mathematics. Please do share this one to your friends out there, especially those who are in need of this video discussion. So are you ready? I guess you are now ready. Please do not forget to subscribe my channel and share this one to your friends out there so that you can help them understand and love mathematics. So are you ready? Yes, you are. So now let's start. So we ended up in our lesson in mathematics in the modern world in this topic. So we ended up in here. So yes, mathematics symbols. So as I have said in the language of mathematics, it's very important for us to know the different symbols so that it will be easier for us to communicate with mathematical ideas. So as you can see there, you can take down notes of that. You can pause this this part of this video discussion so that you can take down notes of the different symbols used in the language of mathematics so that it will be easier for us to understand the ideas in mathematics. So this is very helpful for us to communicate in math. So are you done? I hope you're done. Let's go to our main topic for this video discussion. So now we will be talking about the order of operations, which is also considered as a set of rules. So the order of operations, an expression can contain lots of operations. Have you encountered that one? Can you um can you relate? I hope you can relate. An expression can contain lots of operations. When you evaluate it, you need a set of rules to tell you what order to deal with the different bits in. So order of operations, we follow the PEMDAS rule. So as you can see, the PEMDAS rule, let's just visit. P stands for parenthesis, E for exponents, M for multiplication or division for D, and of course your A is for addition, and S is for your subtraction. So parentheses considered as the brackets, as you can see the examples, exponents, as you can see, x squared y to the power of 7. And of course, for multiplication, you know the symbol. We talked about that one a while ago or in the previous video discussion. And of course, for the division, addition, and subtraction, so on and so forth. So how do we use the PEMDAS rule? First, of course, we do any operations inside the parentheses. So you have to remove the parentheses. So in removing, just solve it. Okay? So next is you evaluate any exponents if there are exponents after you remove the parentheses. And then next is follow any multiplication. So if there is a multiplication, you follow or you do the multiplication first. And if there is division, you can do the division first. And if there is multiplication and division, you do the multiplication first, followed by the division. So always follow the order of the PEMDAS rule. And next, finally, follow any addition and subtraction instruction from left to right. Please take the note from left to right. So I want you to remember that one. Okay? So I guess we can now proceed to the next slide. So do not forget the PEMDAS. Again, P is for parentheses. Exactly. E is for exponents. Right. M for multiplication. D for division. A for addition. And S is for subtraction. Okay, so now let's try to apply the PEMDAS that we just talked about in this evaluating the symbols or without grouping symbols rather. So let's apply the order of operations in here. So now let's try to apply. Given the problem, this is the problem, I'll just highlight. This is the problem. We're going to evaluate without grouping symbols. So we have it 54 divided by 6 plus 18 times 2. So how will we do it? First step, step number 1. Can you see a parenthesis? There's none. So follow the step number 2. Follow the left to right rule. Please do not forget. Follow the left to right rule. So first, solve any multiplication or division parts from left to right, then solve any addition or subtraction parts from left to right. So let's do it. So 54 divided by 6, as you can see, we divide it. That gives you 9. And then do 18 times 12, times 2, that gives you 36. Then we are going to add them after 9 plus 36. That gives you 45. So the order of operations must be followed each time you rewrite the expression. Take down note of that. So a good habit to develop while learning order of operations is to underline the parts of the expression that you want to solve first. Then rewrite the expression in order from left to right and solve the underlined part or part. So always remember that one, as same as how we do it here in our solution. So now let's clear it up. Let's proceed to the next slide. Evaluate with grouping symbols. So we are going to do another example in applying the order of operations in solving using or applying the PEMDAS rule. So we have it here, the given I encircled 3 times 4 squared divided by the quantity of 8 minus 2. So as you can see, there is a parenthesis. So we are going to remove the parenthesis by applying the PEMDAS. So first solve parts inside grouping symbols according to the order of operation. So grouping symbols, we have it here, the 8 minus 2 inside in the parenthesis. 8 minus 2, then you subtract it, that gives you 6. So next, we're going to solve any exponent or powers. Can you see it? Yes, very good, the 4 squared. 4 squared can be solved or can be simplified into 16. 4 squared is 4 times 4, that gives you 16. So we have now 3 times 16 divided by 6. Next is we're going to solve multiplication or division parts from left to right. So 3 times 16, that gives you 48. Then divide it by 6, that gives you 8. And 8 is our final answer. So the order of operations must be followed each time you rewrite the expression. So please take down note of that. Easy, right? Just remember the rules for the PEMDAS. Other other thing or other reference will use, or instead of the term PEMDAS, they use BODMAS. B stands for brackets, O for orders, D for division, multiplication for M, A for addition, S for subtraction. So you can use either of the two way. It could be PEMDAS or BODMAS, but in the calculator, it follows the BODMAS. So please take the note of that. So now let's proceed to the 4 basic concepts of mathematics. As you can see, we have the set, we have the relation, we have the function, and we have the binary function. So let's start with the set. A set is part of the set theory, as you can see there. In mathematics, wow, I love the music or the background music. In mathematics, the word set refers to a group of numbers or other types of elements, and sets are written as follows, as you can see. So a group of numbers or other types of elements or anything, we call it a set. So this is how we use a set. It represents, or we use the brackets as a symbol for the set. This one, I'm referring to the brackets that we use. So these are examples of set, of a given set. So the symbol for the members of a set, we call it element. So E refers to the element of a given set or members of a given set. So if we have an examples in here for sets or its elements, we have it 4, 4 is an element of this set because 4 can be seen in here, this one, correct? So 4 is an element of this set, the one that I encircled. For 7, 7 is not an element of this given set because you cannot see 7 in this given set. For 6, 7, 8, it's an element of this given set because you can see 6, 7, 8 in this given set. So that's how you identify the elements of a given set. Or if a given thing, number or what, yeah, a thing is considered as a set or not, then this is how you do it. So sets can also be named using letters. So do not forget that one. Aside from using the bracket or the braces rather, we can use the capital letter to name a set, just like this one. Set of 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 to 20. So that is set A. This one's for set B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we can say that B is not an element of A because you cannot find any elements of this given set to the um, for A. And of course, for P, we have it 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23 because this is a universal set. So this is how we define a universal set. Perhaps I have a separate video of a universal set. So please visit my other video so that you will be able to identify some of the elements of a given set, the subsets, the proper subsets, and also the universal set. You will be able to know why is it B is not an element of A because it's not because they are both because B is not part of A. Okay, they are it's not the universal set so that we can consider it as an element of a given set. Okay, so now let's proceed to the next. Okay, so let's know more about sets. A set is a collection of well-defined, distinct objects. So the objects of the set are called elements. When we say distinct, unique. Okay, so the objects of the set are called elements. So again, what do you call the members of the set? Elements. The objects are elements in a given set. So sets are denoted by a capital letter, as I have said a while ago. This one, um, this one, capital A. And then sets use curly brackets, this one, as you can see. And of course, the number of elements of set A is 4. This is what we call cardinality. When we say cardinality of a given set, I have also a separate topic about cardinality of a given set. This is just to tell you how many members do we have in a given set or how many elements do we have in a given set. So this will tell us rather the number of elements in a given set, the cardinality. So this is how you name it. N of A, meaning to say the number of elements in a given set A, which is equal to 4. Why 4? Because there are 4 members in here, 1, 3, 2, and 5. Namely, 1, 3, 2, and 5. So that's how you identify the cardinality of a given set. So 3 is an element of A, right? 3 is an element of A. Why? That you try to check it. There is 3 in this given set. For 7, 7 is not an element of A because if you try to check A, there is no 7 in the elements of a set A. So I hope you'll be able to understand and grasp something in this topic. So now let's proceed to the next. Okay. So now, as I have said, each object in a set is called an element or a member of the set, as I have said a while ago. The members of the set is called the elements of the set. So set notation, for sets notation, we use capital letters. For naming the elements or the notations for the elements of a given set, we use a small letters. For example, in this given, for example, A, look at. So A represents as the set or it symbolizes the given set. The capital letter, the small letters, we denote it as the element of a given set. Meaning to say B is an element of A because you can find B in this element of A. And of course, F is not an element of A because you cannot see F in this given set. or in the set A. You cannot see F in set A. So that's how you identify if it's an element or not an element of a given set. Okay, so I guess we're done with this. Now we will talk with the second basic terms in algebra. We call, aside from the set, we also have relation. Oh, something interesting. What is a relation? In math, in our real life, relation means related. We are related to someone else or to other things. So we have a connection with other things. So in math, it's just the same thing also. However, in this case, we talk or we define as relation as a set of ordered pairs. What are ordered pairs? A pairs of your x and y. So why is it there? So x and y. So this is the ordered pairs talking in the relation. This one. So that this is the ordered pairs. So again, in math, a relation is just a set of ordered pairs, namely a pair of your x and your y. So since a set is a collection, then we can also say that x and y are also collections of things. So ordered pair is a pair of numbers used to locate a point on a coordinate plane. The first number tells how far to move horizontally. That's why we have it, the x-axis. And the other one, the second number tells how far to move vertically. So that refers to your y-axis. So meaning to say, when we say ordered pair, a simple definition, a pair of your x and your y. Do not forget it. There is something relation, x and y has relationship. So that is how you define a relation. A pair of your x and y, or a set of ordered pairs which is x and y. So do not forget about the definition of a relation. So next is we're going to talk about a function. So if we have relation, then we have a function. X has a function, Y has a function. So that's the concept behind it. So you have your role. So it talks about function. So it is a relation defined as a set of ordered pairs. This is how we define a function. A function is a relation defined as a set of ordered pairs, x and y, where no two or more distinct ordered pairs have the same first element of x. So take down note of the function. Every value of x corresponds to a unique value of y. What does it mean? So as you can see there on the screen, when we say function, your function means it is a relation where your x or your abscissa or your x coordinate or your x is a is unique rather. So you have a unique value of your x. What does it mean by unique? You don't have the same values of your x. No one will repeat. Unique. That's why we call it unique. So your x must be alone and unique. So wala siyang kaparehas. How we tell it or say it in Tagalog. In Visaya, sorry. So walang kapareha, the value of your x. Your x is unique. That's how you define a function. Once your x is unique, then the pair of or the ordered pairs are, or we call it, or it is considered as a function, or the relation is considered as function. Do not forget, when we define a function, it is a relation, and of course your x coordinate is unique, or the value of your x is unique. That's how we define it, the function. Okay, so now let's go over here, definition of relation. So let's just sum it up about the relation and function. Again, function is the third basic terms in mathematics. So in Mathland, a relation is the general term for a set of ordered pairs x and y. And then or try and always remember this one. I want to highlight this. A function is always a relation. Take down note. A function is always a relation. and a relation is sometimes a function. In short, all functions are relations, but not all relations are functions. So please take down note of that. All functions are relation, but not all relations are functions. That's why we call it a function is always a relation, and then a relation is sometimes a function. So please take down note of that. Okay, another thing that I want you to remember, ways or methods on how you represent a function. The first one, you can represent a function through a table of values. So as you can see, S is here is your considered as your X, and then your perimeter here as your Y. So as you can see, a pair of X and Y for 1, a pair of 1 is 4. A pair for 3 is 12. For 5, we have 20. For 7, we have 28. And for 9, you have 36. And another thing also for ordered pairs, we can just represent this table of values as the ordered pairs. So 1, as you can see here, 1. And then the 4, as for your P, we have it 4. Same thing happens here in 3 and 12, as you can see on the table, and also in the ordered pairs. They're just the same, right? So meaning to say, you can also represent functions by ordered pairs. So again, there are 4 ways to represent a function. The first one, you can use a table of values. This is the example of the table of values table, as you can see. The second one is you can use the ordered pairs. So this is an example of the ordered pairs to represent a function. Okay, now, as what I have said a while ago, a function has a unique value of your x. So I want you to focus on here. Look at your x. These are your x, right? Can you see that can you see any values of your x that repeats? Is there any value of your x that repeats? There's none. 1 does not repeat, 3 does not repeat, 5 does not repeat, 7 does not repeat, 9 does not repeat. So meaning to say, your x is unique. Therefore, this is an example of a function. This one also is a function because look at your x. You can see that your x repeats, correct? So meaning to say, sir, what if your y repeats twice or several times? It's not unique. We don't care because according to the definition, a function is considered as, what I mean is the problem is considered as a function if and only if, or the relation is considered as a function if and only if your x is unique or it will not repeat. So that's how we identify the relation as a function. So another thing also to represent a function, we can use a mapping. So how to use the mapping? As you can see, 1 is for 4, 3 is for 12, and 5 for 20, so on and so forth. In short, this is what we call one-to-one mapping. 1, this is for your x, this is for your y. Your x has only one partner. So 1 is used by 4 once, correct? So meaning to say it never repeats. No one repeats in here. So they can be, they're just used once only. So that's why your x is used once only. As you can see, that's why we call it one-to-one mapping. One x is partnered to one y. Just like 1 is mapped to 4, 3 is mapped to 12, 5 is mapped to 20, 7 is mapped to 28, and 9 is mapped to 36. That's why this is considered as a function. Another thing also to represent the function is by graphing. So graphing is, we can use a vertical line test. What is this vertical line test? This is a set of points in the plane. It's the graph of a function if and only if no vertical line intersects the graph in more than one point. So again, in more than one point. Once the line will pass or touch the graph twice or more than twice, then that graph is not a function. So example, this one. This is the graph, the parabola. So you will just draw, you will just sketch or write a vertical line anywhere as you wish. So look at how many times did it, or the vertical line test touches the graph? Twice. This one and this one. So meaning to say this graph is not a function. Sir, can I also write the vertical line test in here? Yes, you can also write it here on the right side. It depends upon you. You can only write it once, okay? So it's enough. So even if you write twice, even if you rewrite to the right of the graph, your vertical line, to test it, it's still, it touches the graph twice. So meaning to say this, according to the vertical line test, once the graph will touch once the line rather, or the vertical line will touch the graph more than twice, or twice and more, or more than 1 point, then it is said to be not a function. The graph is not a function. Excuse me. So please take down note of that. So another thing also that I want you to that I want to talk about, the fourth basic terms in mathematics. We have the sets, relation, function. Then the fourth one, or the last one, is the binary operation. So binary operation, as you can see on the set, is a calculation involving how many? Two elements. Meaning to say, from the word itself, binary, it involves two elements of the set to produce another element of the set. So a new math binary operation is using the symbol, this one. So if you encounter this symbol, the asterisk, that means binary operation. So in a binary operations, I want you to remember there are only two operations that we can use in here. We have the multiplication, we also have the addition. So please do not forget that one. The binary operations are the addition and multiplication, and it is denoted by the symbol asterisk, as you can see. So let's have an example. What is for the binary operations of 4 and 3? So you can have it 3 times 4 plus 3, which gives you 12 plus 3. So you multiply 4 times 3, then you add it to 3. As I have said a while ago, we will just follow this one for a while. So you're wondering where did we get this one? We just follow this symbol. Okay? This binary operation formula. So your A is your 4, B is your 3. So this will result to 3 times A, which is your A is 4, so 3 times 4, as you can see. And then we have it plus B, your B is 3, so plus 3. So you have it 15. The answer is 15. So is A asterisk B commutative? What do you mean by commutative? When we have it A plus B, that gives you is equal to B plus A, or AB is equal to BA. Even if you interchange the position of a given expressions, then they're just equal. It will not change at all, or it will not affect the result. So let's try to verify this one. This is what I said, commutative. A times B is equal to B times A. That means even if you interchange them, they're just the same. A times B is equal to B times A, or A asterisk B is equal to B asterisk A. So you can have it 3A plus B, then that is equal to 3B plus A. Not true for all real numbers. So if A is equal to 4 and B is equal to 2, again, we just make any values of your A, and we decided to, based on the given for asterisk 3, your A is 4 and then your B is 2. Then you can have it 3 times 4 plus 2, which is equal to 3 times 2 plus 4. We just follow this rule. This one, I'll encircle. We just follow this rule. Maybe you're wondering, where did you get, sir, the 3 times 4 plus 2 is equal to 3 times 2 plus 4? This one. We got this one from this formula. 3A plus B is equal to 3B plus A, where A is 4 and B is equal to 2. So again, your A is, from here, A is 4. So that's why we have it 4. And of course, for 2, where did we get 2? B is from here, B B is 2. That's why we have it 2. And of course, on the other side, we have it 3B plus A. Your B is 2. That's why we have it 2. And then your A is 4. So that's why we have it 4. This is not true. Why? 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2, 14. So this is 14. And then this one, 3 times 2 is 6 plus 4. So 10. So meaning to say they are not equal. That's why it's not true. Okay, this we are just checking or verifying in here. So please do not be confused. So is this one associative? Let's try to follow the rule. So A times B times C is equal to A asterisk B asterisk C. So please take down note of the grouping. So as you can see, the formula in here, we have it in here. So A asterisk A asterisk 3B plus C is equal to quantity 3A plus B close quantity asterisk C, which gives you 3A plus the quantity of 3B plus C is equal to 3 times 3A 3A plus B plus C. So that's how you verify if this is associative. Just follow the rule. Just follow its notation and then you will just get it right away. Okay, now let's go over to, that's how we do it. That's how we do the binary operation. The main point in here for the binary operations use two operations, namely addition and multiplication. That's the purpose in it. Okay, I just want you to focus on binary operation, its definition and concept. Okay, so now let's proceed to mathematical logic. So mathematical logic, as you can see on the screen, it is a method or methods of reasoning provides rules and techniques to determine whether an argument is valid. So this will tell us if the argument is valid. The methods of reasoning, we call it mathematical logic. So a statement that can be shown to be true. So example, let's have an example about example of mathematical logic. If x is an even integer, then x plus 1 is an odd integer. So this statement is true under the condition that x is an integer is true, correct? So if we have it, if x is 1, if x is even, so let's say x is even. So when we try to verify this one, we can substitute any value of your x as long as your x is an even integer. Example, your x is 2. So if your x is 2, then this gives you 2 plus 1, which is equal to 3. And then the statement now is true because x plus 1 is an odd integer. See? So again, if x is an even integer, then x plus 1 is an odd integer. That's how you check it. So next, let's proceed. More of logic. A statement, or in logic, it's very important to know or determine a statement or a proposition. When we say statement or a proposition, it is a declarative sentence that is either true or false, but not both. Again, a proposition is a declarative sentence that will tell us either a true or false, but not both. So the uppercase letters denote propositions. So as you can see here, 2 is an even number. So the answer is, this is true, correct? So there's only one or either true or false. So this is true. So for this, 7 is an even number. That is false, correct? So there's only one answer, false. A is a vowel. That is true. So meaning to say these are examples of a propositions or a statement. Why? Because the answer is either true or false. Always remember, if it is both, then it is not a statement or a proposition. Again, a proposition or a statement is a declarative sentence that is either true or false, but not both. So these are the examples of not a propositions. See, my cat is beautiful. Try to think about this one. It's neither true nor false. Not neither true nor false. My house is big. So we can say if it is true or false. So meaning to say These are examples of not propositions because it violates the rule when where the rule is a proposition is a declarative sentence that is either true or false, but not both. So I want you to take down note of that. I hope you'll be able. I hope you're able to get it. Sorry. Next is, of course, in a propositions. As I have said, it is a sentence that is either true or false. So please take down note of the definition. A logical connectives are defined by truth tables but have English language. So these are the symbols we used in logic. So please be reminded about this one because soon we will talk about this conjunction, for disjunction, for negation, for conditional, for biconditional. Please do not forget its symbol in math symbol. For this one, for the conjunction in English, that means and. For the disjunction in English, that is or inclusive. For negation, that is not. For conditional, that is if and then statement. For biconditional, that is if and only if statement. So please do not forget the symbols used for logical connectives. So again, a logical connectives are defined by the truth tables. So soon we will talk about that one. So let's try to define this one. This. So denial is a statement equivalent to negation of a statement. Example, negation is something denial or negative. So a denial is a statement equivalent to a negation of a statement. So please do not forget this one. When we say negation, again, what does it mean according to the example that I gave you? The word not, in English, not beautiful. That is a negation. So that is considered as a denial statement. So again, a denial is a statement equivalent to the negation of a statement. And of course, we have here the tautology. For tautology, it is, I want you to just remember the definition. Tautology, oh, sorry. Tautology means a statement which is always true. So tautology is a statement which is always true. So God is good all the time. Yeah, that's true. Always true. So please do not forget about the definition, a basic definition, a very comprehensive definition of tautology. When we say tautology, it is a statement which is always true. Contradiction is a statement which is always false. And the contrapositive of the statement is an what? An application and its contrapositive are logically equivalent. So one can always be in place of the other. In short, when we say contrapositive, that means statement if and then statement. If you are good, then you are beautiful, like that. So if then statement, contrapositive. Uh, a predicate or an open sentence is a sentence containing one or more variables which becomes a proposition upon replacement of the variable. So it replaces something. Okay, uh, a situation is represented by a variable that is predicate, a sentence containing one or more variables, which becomes a proposition upon replacement of the variables. Example, the integer x is even, y is equal to 5. So that's an example. So please take down note and remember these concepts or the definitions of each terms that I mentioned in here in logic, because later on we will have a separate discussion of logic. So please do not forget its definition because we will explore more of this soon. Okay? So we will end our discussion in here. I hope that everybody is getting something. So thank you for listening. See you in the next video. Please do not forget to share my video discussion to your classmates and friends. Thank you and have a good day.